Alright then, so we have this auth context now, and we have the auth context provider, which is wrapping the rest of our application. That's what this children is right here. And those children are the navbar and the component right here, which represents the different pages, different page components. So since we're wrapping the rest of our application and providing the rest of our application with this value, which is currently the user, we can access that in any of the other components that we use. And this user at the minute is being driven by this bit of state, which is currently set to null. So that's the initial value of the state. And we can access this value in other components using use context and then saying which context we want to use. And then whatever value we pass here inside this prop, we get back from this use context hook. And currently it's the user, which we log to the console in the navbar, and we can see that that is null because, like I said, that is the initial value of the user right here. But obviously that will change over time as a user logs in and out of the application. And as it changes, the value right here changes, and so the value right here is updated as well. Okay, so we also use the useEffect hook to fire a function just once when this component first mounts, and that initializes the connection with Netlify identity on the backend, if you like, for us. So this initializes the identity service so that Netlify can tell whether a user is logged in or logged out, and also allow us to log in and log out as well. So that's what we're going to focus on now. We're going to focus on how we can log a user in or sign them up to the application, and it's actually really simple to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a function down here, and this is going to be called login. We'll set that equal to an arrow function, and inside here we're going to use Netlify identity, which we imported right here from the Netlify identity widget package we installed, and then we use a method called open. So what this method does is open up a modal, and it's a pre-made modal. We don't have to create that ourselves. It's a modal with either a sign-up form on it or a login form on it, and we can toggle between the two. We'll see that in a second, but all of that is styled for us by Netlify. We don't have to do a thing, so it's dead simple. So we have this login function now, which opens up the modal. That's all there is to it. All we have to do is call this login function whenever a user clicks on a button to log in or some kind of link to log in, etc. But we also have to pass it back as a value inside this prop. Otherwise, we won't be able to use this in other components. So currently, we're just passing in this user, but eventually we want to pass in an object which looks a bit like this object right here with 4 different values. The user, but also these functions, log in and log out. This is going to be the login one. And also this property, auth ready. So let's instead create an object down here which starts to look a bit more like this. So I'm going to say const context. Now you don't have to call it context, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm calling it context, and we'll set it equal to an object. And as one property, we'll have the user, and the value of that will be the user. And as another property, we'll have login, and the value of that will be login. Now, because this and this are the same name, we can shorten this like this, just a bit easier to write, and this does exactly the same thing. So it's going to pass down now, if we enter context in here, this object, and inside the object we'll have 2 properties, the user, which is this value, and login, which is this function. So now, since we're passing that down, we could access it down here in the navbar. So instead of just getting the user, we're going to get 2 properties from this. Well, we're going to get an object, right? We'd get an object back, and that object would then be stored in val. And if I was to log this to the console, we should see those 2 different properties on it. We have the user and also the login function. But instead of this, I'll destructure both of those. So we'll do curly braces, and then we want the user and also the login function, like so. Okay then. So what I'm going to do is create a link down here inside this UL, which when a user clicks on that, it's going to call this function. Now I'm going to get rid of val and replace that with user as well, so that when a user does log in, this changes. We can see that in the console as well. Alright, so let's create an li tag right here. Now this li is going to say login / sign up, because when we open the modal, it's going to have a login form and a sign up form. It's the same thing, and you can toggle between that. So let's now, inside this, do an on click and set that equal to a function which is login. So we're just calling this function from the context. And also I'm going to give this a class name as well, and I'm going to set that equal to btn just to style this a little bit. Alright then, so let me save this and come over here, and I'm going to refresh over here first of all. Now when I click on this now, login, sign up, notice this, we get this modal right here, and it says it looks like you're running a local server, which we are. Please let us know the URL of your Netlify site. So it's asking us this while we're developing our application so that it can communicate with the actual Netlify project and the identity service on that project. So it's kind of associating our development environment with our actual project on Netlify so that it can keep track of who's logged in and who's not, etc. So what you want to do is go to your Netlify dashboard and choose the site that we deployed, and then you want to grab this URL right here. So copy that, and that's what we're going to paste right here. Once you've done that, we can set the site's URL like so, and once we've done that, we can now see this login form right here, but also the sign up form, and this is the modal we see when we click on this button now. All right, and if you want to change your development settings, you can clear that localhost URL so that we can associate this with a different project when we deploy it in the future as well, but we don't need to do that. So this is our login and sign up form, and now we could sign up to the application. But before we do that, I want to show you one more thing that we're going to add to our context over here. Because although now a user can log in using this form or sign up, and by the way, when you sign up, Netlify automatically logs you in once you've done that, but we can do that and it will be registered on Netlify on our project, so it would know that we're logged in, but in our project on the front end we wouldn't necessarily know that we're logged in. This value is not going to change automatically just because Netlify's logged us in. We have to do that ourselves, and the way we do that is by listening for a login event. So Netlify comes with a load of different event listeners that we can use, and one of those is for the login event. So I could say, inside this use effect over here, I'm going to set up an event listener using Netlify identity, like so. Then we say .on and then the event name, so on login. And at that point, we can fire a function. So let me do this, and down here we can do something. Now, when we fire this function, we automatically get access to the user that's logged in from Netlify. So this right here is listening for any user signing up or logging in. And when that happens, it fires this function and provides us with the user that's just authenticated. So we can do something with that user then. And what we want to do is update this value to match whatever we get right here. So I'm going to use the set user function, which is this, to update this bit of state and pass in this user we get right here. All right then. Now, once we've done that, I also want to manually close the modal. Now, sometimes this does work automatically. Once we log in, it closes it, but sometimes you get an error where once you've logged in and it automatically closes, there's still kind of something hovering over the content and you can't interact with that content. So it's always better to close the modal manually at the minute. So I'm going to say Netlify identity .close to do that, and that closes the modal that's open. And also what I'm going to do is just log a message to the console, which is login event, just so we know that a login event occurred. So console.log login event, like so. So when we click on the link, it runs this function to open up the modal. Then we're going to sign up, and that automatically logs us in as well, or we're going to log in if we already have an account. And then once we get that login event, we're going to update the user to match the user that's just logged in that we get from Netlify. Then we close the modal and we also log this to the console. So let's cross our fingers and hope this all works. I'm going to click on login and sign up. I'm just going to refresh first of all, login and sign up. Then I'm going to sign up because we don't have an account yet. And by the way, if I try to log in, we get some automatic validation right here. So I'm going to sign up. Enter your name. I'll just say it's Mario, and then the email is going to be mario@thenetninja.co.uk, the password test1234, and then I'm going to sign up. So when we do that, it logs us into the service, and it says right here, a confirmation message was sent to your email. Click the link there to continue. So By default, Netlify is set up so that you need to confirm your email address when you try to sign up. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I want to disable that feature. And to do that, I can go to the Identity tab and then go to Settings and Usage. And then if we scroll down here, there is an option somewhere. Let me have a look. Invitation, blah, 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 blah. This is the one, confirmation template. If we click on Edit Settings, see this right here, it says allow users to sign up without verifying their email address. I'm going to tick that and click on save just for the sake of this tutorial so that when we sign up we don't have to do that. Now this user will have been registered already with Netlify. So what I'm going to do is scroll back up and I'm going to go to the Identity tab again and we can see it right here. So even though we've not confirmed our email yet, Netlify still registers this user. Now what I'm going to do is actually delete the user so that I can sign up again using the same credentials, and I'm going to do that right here. I'm just going to click on sign up again and hopefully now it will sign us up. No, it's not done that, so let me again refresh over here. I'm going to click on this and delete it again, and I think what I need to do is potentially cross this off, maybe refresh the page, then try to sign up again. Let's enter in these details, Mario, and then Mario at thenetninja.co.uk, and then finally test 1, 2, 3. Oops, I've done that wrong. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Sign up, fingers crossed. Yep, I think now we're signed up and it's closed the modal for us, and we can see right here, logged to the console, login event, and also we have this object which is the user, because remember we logged that to the console inside the navbar function. Because it changes, we're going to kind of re-render the function and we're going to log this to the console. So this user object right here has a load of different information about it. You can see the email right here, the ID of the user when it was created. If they confirmed it with their email, then this would be the confirmed date, etc. There's a lot of different information. And also we have the user metadata where we have the full name as well, Mario. So we could access this information now and use it in our application. And now if I was to click on this again, it still opens up the modal, but this time it says I'm logged in as Mario. Now I can click log out right here and it logs me out, that's fine. And I can log in again with that Mario email address. So I could say Mario at thenetninja.co.uk, and then down here, test 1, 2, 3, 4, login. That's going to log me in again. And again, we get a login event. And now again, we can see that user object right here. So this now is all working. That was really simple to set up a login and sign up flow using Netlify Identity, and we didn't really have to do a thing. It just automatically pops up this modal with that login or sign up form. We just enter in the information and press sign up or login, and it does everything for us. So now what I'd like to do is turn our attention to logging out. Yeah, we can log out right here, but I'd also like to maybe add a button up here where we can just click it. It doesn't throw up the modal and it just automatically logs us out. So we'll take a look at that next.